All right, welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to cover scene lighting and also setting up the sky with procedural or custom skyboxes. So the first thing I want to cover is the directional light before we jump into the other lights. The directional light functions kind of like the sun. If you go to main assets and you select lighting, so you open up this drop down the lighting, directional light, and hit F on the keyboard when you're in the viewport, it'll focus on that light. If you rotate this light, so if you hit E on the keyboard or select right here for the rotation tool, if you rotate, you'll see the shadows of the world move. And that's kind of how it functions like the sun. So that's a cool ability of this light, the directional light. Another thing you can do with all lights is you can change the color. So if I wanted to put red on everything, like my sun was really bright red or had red lights in the scene, like a circus lighting or a show lighting, I could do that. I could also increase the intensity right here to really blow it out or decrease it to make it darker. And even when I make it completely no intensity or completely dark on the lighting, it still isn't fully dark in the world. So there's a way to do that. I'll show you in a second, but just know if you turn down your lights and you don't do the other parts, it won't black out or make the world a dark scene or a nighttime scene. So you have to change this and change other settings. Now that we've covered all that, we can look at the other types of lights. Let me just undo to go back to our original settings on our light. Then we'll move over here just to show you the other two types of lights that are used in this template. So you can go to close these down with the arrows, and if you want to open them back up, you can. Just right here underneath everything, I'm going to right click, go to light, point light. And I'm going to lift this up so we can see it a little bit. Make sure it's actually over here. This is why you have to move around in the world to see where it is. Sometimes it'll create it behind things or far away. So I positioned it right here next to the player. If I increase the range of this light, you can't really see nothing yet, but if I increase the intensity and then I change the range, you'll see what's happening. The range is how far it reaches in the world. This sphere that's around it, that's where all the light is for this light. So if I increase the range, I'm expanding how far it can reach, and the intensity is how bright it is. Same thing, I can change the colors if I want and push color in this light as well. And this arrow right here doesn't really matter if you just drop it down to 0 on the multiplier. And I could add shadows, but normally I don't add shadows on all my lights. In games, there's a lot of visual manipulation to achieve what you want. And I don't like to use a lot of lights. I like to use less lights if possible, just to make it easier for a computer to handle it. But if you were to add a bunch of lights, you could, and you could put shadows on it as well, just changing right in here. You just have to make sure you update your actual target platform settings and your build settings to work with this, or otherwise you might not get the shadows you're looking for. Now, there's another type of light you can create, and this one's good for like lighting up an area, right? So intensity, and then you light up this whole area, like if we had a dance floor or something. But if I wanted a spotlight, more like a street light or a flashlight or something like that, I would go to light, right click in here, go to light, spotlight, and now I will have a light that we can see here. I'll just move it to where we can actually access it near the other one. Once we look at this light, we can see if I increase the range, it increases the distance of this cone. And if I increase the intensity so we can see it, you'll see it creates a light here, but it doesn't create light to the side of it unless it's inside the cone. So it's similar to the sphere on the other one, but this one's ability allows us to do things like having headlights that are looking forward and only touch the ground where like a headlight would hit as it broadcasts forward, so it's not creating like a circle and everything, but rather a cone shape. And you can also face it down. If you wanted to create something like a street light, you can increase the spot angle to increase how big the light is, like circular wise, like whatever it's pointed at. Here I'll just make sure it's 90 degrees, so it's pointing straight down up here. And then you can also increase the range or decrease the range to get it to only reach as far as you want it to. Intensity is the same thing, blown out or soft. Below are the indirect multiplier. If you want to get rid of that error, you can add color as well. And yeah, those are the three main lights we use with this template. You can also change this to be mixed or baked as well, just like the other lights, but then you have to bake it into your scene. I'm not going to do that right now. I'll go over baking lights in another video, but for now, just know with real-time lights, you can actually do a lot. You just have to set everything up properly. And yeah, you have directional, spotlight, and point light. And that's how you use them to start creating scenes. You can also duplicate these. So if I were to move this over here and then hit Control D, I could duplicate the light if I wanted to have multiple lights. And there's an issue that can occur with lights. I'll just go over it real quick. Inside your settings, so if you go Edit, Project Settings, or if you want to get there from File, Build Settings, and then Player Settings, inside here, you can see your settings right here for your project. And you can change your quality to have more pixel lights right here. So pixel light count. If you notice you have like more lights than the number right here, and you turn this up, it'll accommodate those lights. But just realize the more pixel lights you have, the more it has to calculate lighting in the world. So be careful not to go too high. I find 11 to 20 works for me. But you do as you please. I'm just telling you to let you know that if your lights, if some of them are working and some of them aren't on, check right here in your project settings, quality, pixel lights. If this spot changes inside of Unity, you can always go to your project settings and then search for pixel light. So you can go pixel light now and hit enter, and it'll try to find that. It'll tell you it's in the quality section. And if you get rid of this, it'll bring back all those other options. Just remember to get rid of it. So just know to increase your pixel light count if need be, if you have lights that aren't working or not showing up, like you're not seeing the actual light work and it has like a crossed out sign on it. But yeah, those are lights and that's how you use them. Now let's actually set up a scene for a dark scene and a light scene just to show you the difference. So to change the sky, I'll just go into our new game folder right here in materials. I'll add some new game assets, materials. This is just me where I'm putting things to show y'all. You should put your own stuff in here, but I'm just going to create it in here just to show you. So if I go in here to materials and I created like SkyBox folder and I add a material inside here. So I right click, create material, and I call this Lightbox or Light Sky, something like that. It'll create this new material, but this material doesn't work on our sky yet. So the way we make this work is we go here and click it. If it's not selected, click the actual material, just left click once. And we change the standard to SkyBox procedural. Now this will give us a procedural sky, but if we change the settings in here, we'll see them show up down here, but they won't show up out here. So the way we make them show up out here is we have to adjust our settings and then we drag this onto our sky like this. So we just left click and drag it onto the sky. And now this sky is going to affect the world around it. So we can change it to a dark scene like this, or we can change it to a light scene, however we want to set this up. And we can also change the floor. So you see the floor down here? We can change the settings colors right here. So the sky tint, we can change this to like blue if we wanted to have like a blue color. We could change this to a green if we wanted to have a green floor to get it more like that. It also changed this to blue if we wanted to be more like an ocean or something like that, or put clouds below here and it's like we're in the atmosphere. Or we could change it to black to create like a fully blacked out world type of thing if we wanted something like this, to have it like be real dark, like gloomy, or like you're in the night with the horizon. But once we've created a bright or dark scene, then we can add our lighting in and fix our lighting. So the first step you really want to do before doing your lights is you want to set up your scene on sky. So here we set up our procedural sky. So we just created I'll do it one more time. So I'll adjust this to a light sky. But we've got a light sky here with a dark ground. If you look up too, there's a sun here and the sun size actually is affected too. If I add atmospheric thickness, it'll add red into the sky as if like dust is in the sky. And that's how you can add that. Now, you'll notice we have fog that looks different than our lighting. So we'll fix that in a second. I'll show you how. But this is our light sky. And now I'll make a dark sky just to show you. To show you one more time, right click in here, create material, go to standard at the top left, but we want to name it first. So we'll call it dark sky. And then we'll change this from standard to SkyBox procedural. And then we'll drag this onto our world, drop the exposure to get a darker scene. If you want it pure black, you can, or you can adjust as you see fit for everything else so that you get it to be a little bit more dynamic with the procedural. It's up to you on how you determine what you want with it. And then, yeah, that's how you create like a dark scene and then a light scene. Now, once you've created your sky and you're ready to start lighting, you'll want to change that directional light. So now we've changed the sky to a dark light, and we're going to go to our directional light, main assets, lighting, directional light, and we'll drop down the intensity here. So now we're creating like a darker scene. And you'll see we've now created a much darker looking scene. But the problem is now we have this like fog. So how do we fix this fog? We need to go to our lighting settings. So we can go Window, Rendering, Lighting, and we open this. Or down here on the right, there's this little icon. We can turn that on or click that to open it up, and it'll open up our lighting settings as well. So that's one way to do it. Or you can go through Window, Rendering, Lighting, either one. And then you go to Environment, and you need to change the fog settings right here. Now, another thing to change here to make it dark as well is you can change this intensity multiplier, and you'll see that it also affects the world out here. So right here, you can see that it's affecting the world as well to get even darker. And then once you got your setting the way you want it right there, you're going to want to change this fog. So you can turn it all the way off if you want, and that'll really make it dark. But if you want to have like that fall off fog look, you can change this to like a darker black or a gray or something like that to get fog to really like push in differently. And just to show you how the fog works, I'm going to change this color so you can see it a little bit easier. And then here, right here under these numbers, you don't have to change a lot. So this is sensitive, right? So 0.01 would be like kind of like what we have now. And then 0.05 would be a lot closer. And 0.1 would be a very dense fog. So just know that you don't have to change this with big numbers, like solid numbers. You might need to do this with like 0.0142 or something to get it to look how you want it. And the further you push it, the further it'll like stretch away from you. So like if I wanted to go even further away from me, I could drop this to 0.5 maybe, something like that. But that's how it works. And then the color dictates how it looks in terms of actual darkness when you're walking and looking into the fog. So now we've got this dark scene, and we would go and start adding lights to our dark scene. So we could do like a point light, bring this in. So we've set up our sky and we've set up our dark scene with our main light and our fog. We can start building the scene the way we would like with our actual lighting and start heading these where we would like them. Just know that when you're building lighting in your scene, you don't want to use a bunch of them all like this. If it was a small area, you probably just want to use one. So like this area right here, I could easily light it with just one of these lights. So here I'd do like this and then increase the range maybe, and increase the intensity to what I wanted. And then that would give me the light for this area that I'm looking for. And I could change the color if I wanted, and that would give me the lights within my scene. Like if I wanted another light over here, I could duplicate that and then move that over here because I only need a light over here for this area. So I wouldn't want to use lights that are super close together. Now, if I wanted to light this whole area, I could just try to do it with like one light here, increase the range. You can also do that with these little dots on the range that you see. And you increase the intensity or keep the intensity the way it is, but you can create like a lit area just by doing something like that. And now the last step is to do custom skyboxes. So we're going to jump out of Unity for a second, and we're going to look at this right here. As you can see, tinyurl.com, easy skybox. So I'll copy this just to put it in my actual browser. And I'll hit paste and then hit enter. And it'll open this site right here. Now this is just an ad, don't worry about that. This site is free to use, and you can use it in your games. I checked to make sure that you were able to do this, but you can look more into it if you'd like. Here you can change settings, change them as you see fit, or you can just click random seed to generate new skies that you can use within your game. So I'm just going to click this until I see one I like. This one looks kind of cool. So once you have that, you can select what size or resolution it is. I'm going to pick 2048, and it'll change the resolution for me. Then I go to download Skybox. Once I click download Skybox, it's going to pop up. Once it pops up, I'm going to go ahead and say OK or save to save the Skybox. Here it'll go to my downloads. I can click the folder right here. So if I click downloads, whatever Chrome or whatever browser you have, you just click your downloads, or you open a folder to go to your downloads and you open your folder. Once you do that, you can see right here you have your Skybox zip folder. We just want one file out of this, so we double click to open this, and we see cube map. Here we drag this cube map to our downloads, and it'll recreate it right here for us. And we can take this and drag it into Unity. So I'll minimize this and I'll go to my folders over here. So if I'm not on my folders, I'll just do that right here. And I'll select that folder for my downloads and I'll drag this into my Unity SkyBox folder. And now we'll get this cube map. So I'm going to change this to call it like custom sky 01, something like that. And then I need to do one more step before I can drop it onto my scene. So I'll need to select this, go to the top right here. So with this selected, not these, but the one we added, the custom skybox, we'll change this 2D to cube. And then we say at the bottom down here, we scroll down and hit apply. And this will finalize it so we can drop it onto our sky. And now we have a custom sky that we can use. And the final step we could do is add a script to this to rotate it. So to do the final step, we need to drag the material onto the sky, and it'll create this material folder. Once it creates that material folder, we can double click here and click this and change this from Skybox to custom Skybox rotatable. And then we'll go to our Skybox folder, one up right here, and we'll drag our cube map for it in here. And now we have a Skybox that's on a rotatable Skybox script. Essentially, it's this script right here. It's a shader that allows us to rotate the sky. And if we select this, we can see it's got a different setting here. But the last thing we need to do to make it work is add a cube to our scene. And we'll go 3D object cube, or we could add an empty if we wanted. So we can add a 3D object, create empty. We'll call this Skybox rotation. And this is just a placeholder for the script that's going to dictate how the rotation occurs. So we'll go back into our Skybox here with our Skybox rotate script right here, the C# script, and we'll drag this onto our Skybox rotation, and you'll see this pop up. Once this is here, we can change our number right here, so we can change it like 21 or something, and then we'll hit play to test it, and then it should start rotating the sky, which is what we're looking for. And then I'll show you how to adjust the brightness as well. So you can see it's kind of fast if you put 21. So be careful not to make it too fast. So I'll put like 2 or 1, and you'll see it'll start to slow down and rotate like a normal sky, like in a game. So here you can see the sky's now rotating on the y-axis. And if we wanted to set this setting how we want, what we can do is hit escape, alt-tab, this to leave the camera where I want. So escape and then alt-tab. And then right here I can change this setting to get different results that I'm looking for. So if I wanted it to rotate in other directions, I could do that, but I need to make sure these are allowed before I check them on to be allowed. And then here I can put like 5, or we'll just put 20 to test it. So you can see here, but check them all on, but then I leave zeros and I pick the one I want. It'll rotate in different directions based on what I choose. So if I choose different directions, it'll rotate differently, and I can combine them to get different results as well. So it's all in how you want to set that up, but that's how you can make your sky background rotate. And then once you have your setting how you want it, you right click and you go copy component, and then you turn off play, and then you just paste it as component values. And now it should save what you had there. So whenever you play, it'll have that rotation that you're looking for. And you can see here, we've got our sky rotating. And if it looks a little dark, you can adjust this by going alt-tab to leave it there. And then we'll select our folder down here for where we had our skybox, our cube map, and then our folder that it created. This right here will let us have an exposure setting, or we can push that exposure up to brighten the sky if we want to make it a little bit brighter. And that's how you can get a custom sky within your game and have it rotate. But yeah, that's how you set up your sky. You do lighting in your scene, you change the fog, you add a custom sky or a procedural sky depending on what you want. If it's inside, even if it's inside, you want to set it. If it's a dark scene, you want to have a dark outside area, so a dark procedural map or procedural sky. And if it's a light outside, you probably want to have a lighter procedural map. Just get used to setting up the sky, the lights, and the fog when you're setting up the scene. And also, if you need to check back on how to set up a rotating sky, just follow along with it. It is a few steps. You have to generate the sky, download it, bring the cube map into Unity, and you have to change it from a 2D to a cube, and then that creates another material, the material that you see here, which is inside of a material folder that it creates, a custom Sky 01 material, whatever you call it. Well, it'll give the name right here. And then you have to change its shader to use the custom Skybox rotatable shader and add a Skybox rotation to your scene to be able to get it to rotate like you see here. And just remember this part as well. So just use the video to set up the skies however you would like to set them up, and make sure to set up your lights how you would like the scene to look as well. So yeah, hope you have fun with it. That's how you set up skies and scenes and lighting with the Game Jam template. Later.